Let it be known that this was the week Cruz controlled and comics pounced. But who do you think will have the last laugh? Why, Bachmann's in overdrive, and a guy named Bozzell's pointing out the real Bozos. Spoiler alert, Cruz ain't one of them. And is the government trying to shake down J.P. Morgan Chase or just take down its boss, Jamie Dimon? Either way, a former Whitewater prosecutor says it is extortion and it is scary, very scary. And it's scary when kids come up with this excuse for not doing their homework. Congress doesn't bother. Why should I? Well, way to go, Washington, setting another fine example. Forget what this budget mess is doing to our economy. Tonight, meet the mom who says it's wreaking havoc on our kids. She is ready to rumble, and we are ready to roll. Cavuto begins right now. Welcome, everybody. I'm Neil Cavuto, and if you did not know who Ted Cruz was last week, bet you know who he is right now.
Dr. Seuss's Green Eggs and Ham. I do not like them, Sam I am. I do not like green eggs and ham.
So to express your opposition to Obamacare, you go with a book about a stubborn jerk who decides he hates something before he's tried it. And when he finally does get a taste, he has to admit, after tasting it, this is pretty good.
One devoted crusader, or should I say one devoted Crusader, trademark, talked about the need to defund Obamacare for 21 hours and 19 minutes and did what many thought was impossible, make the Senate even less productive.
In the land of D.C., in the Senate of Snooze, lived the showboatiest blab whose name was Ted Cruz.
We have some more of his speech here. We picked it up here. Look, take a look at this. I will not allow this nation's money to support this health care law. Obama. It's a weird name, right? Obama.
Breaking Bad has its final episode on Sunday. Well, as you know, it's a great show, isn't it? It's the story of this chemistry teacher, teaches chemistry in high school, and he has cancer, and he starts making meth to help cover his medical bills and provide for his family. Or as Republicans call that, a legitimate alternative to Obamacare.
That could have gone another day, because welcome to the big leagues and the big laugh, Senator. Michelle Bachmann knows what you are in for, and a lot more than that. But before the former presidential candidate, media watcher Brent Bozzell on how the media seems to be working overtime, laughing off, and maybe killing off a future one. Brent, what do you make of all this?
Well, Neil, on one hand, you've got to have a sense of humor, and some of those clips were funny, and we should laugh at them because they are funny. On the other hand, you have to understand that in some of them, it is an attempt to undermine, a deliberate attempt to undermine Ted Cruz, to which I would say to Ted Cruz, this is exactly what they did with Ronald Reagan, and it's just a replay of what happens when there's an uppity conservative who comes forward on the national scene. Look, let me tell you what's really happening. In the Republican Party, there has been nothing but dead wood for about 15 years, and suddenly, if you look at what the party is, there is a new leadership. There's a new set of sheriffs that have come to town. Their names are Ted Cruz, Mike Lee, Marco Rubio, and Rand Paul. And what's happened is that the old guard, these old, tired people who will not fight for anything are outraged by it. The Democrats are threatened by it. The media can't stand it. Everyone is going to pile on Ted Cruz, but I tell you, he's taken over the Republican Party.
Well, I always say that, criticism or even jokes are the sincerest form of flattery, because what you're seeing here is a worry in an undercurrent that, look, this guy's amounting to something, much as the kind of original attacks that Michelle Bachmann came into, that she was becoming a force in the party. So just try to trivialize her try to trivialize this guy, try
Sure.
to back in,
I mean,
decades
Neil,
ago,
if they
Ronald
had
Reagan.
ignored him, it would have shown he had no impact.
Absolutely.
The fact that they're all focused on him shows the impact that he's had, and it's not going to stop. Ted Cruz is going to continue talking this way. Mike Lee is going to continue talking this way. Isn't this interesting? There is no good news on Obamacare. It's nothing but bad news on Obamacare. Do you think these conservatives are going to stop in their efforts to try to stop this train wreck? They're not going to stop.
You know, I always think, too, when this
that just leaves you with nothing but attacks on them. That's all the other side can do.
Yeah, ad hominem laughs, sometimes legitimately good laughs, but laughs just the same. But I will say this, that there were a lot of people I knew and friends I knew who don't pay as much attention to this stuff as you and I do, who were saying, what is he railing on about? What is this guy? Oh, yeah, that healthcare thing. I'm worried about that, too. Or yeah, there are some problems with that, and I'm getting anxious because my boss is thinking about dumping me onto these exchanges. He doesn't know anything about them. I don't know anything about them. So in a way, whether you get your way or not, it sometimes doesn't matter. You make a statement, I guess, much as Ronald Reagan did in 1976, just missing the Republican nomination and storming back years later.
Yeah, but Neil, the people who are objecting to this message are the special interests in Washington, D.C. Out in the real world, in America, you've got nothing but bad news. You've got UPS telling their spouses of employees, we can't cover you. You've got IBM telling 110,000 retirees, we can't cover you.
That's right.
Every day
no
there's a
laughing
new
matter to any of them. No laughing matter. Yeah.
So it's not going to connect when they attack Ted Cruz. Nobody's going to feel like the attackers are in their camp. They like what Ted Cruz is saying.
Brent Bozzell, thank you, my friend. Good having you again.
Thank you, Neil.
All right, now to the woman who's, of course, no stranger to media critics, comics, and otherwise, but no matter how hard they tried to dismiss Michelle Bachmann, well, she just kept going on and kept the fight going. The Congresswoman, I see it happening all over again for Senator Cruz, and whether you agree or disagree with his methods, I think between the jokes and then the personal attacks, it gets a little heavy-handed. But where do you think he is going now with this?
Well, I agree with Ted Cruz. I was with him and Senator Lee last night. We were talking about strategy and the way forward. And the silver lining in the vote that was taken today on the Senate is this. More than double the number of votes that they thought they might get came in. They thought originally maybe they would get 9 Republican senators to go with them. They had 19 senators vote with them. And that's simply because, Neil, a lot of your viewers picked up the phone and made calls to their Republican senators and said, stand with Ted Cruz. And they did. 19. That's an incredible number that did. The fight isn't over. We're going to pick the fight up now in the House. The Senate will send this naked bill over to us, if you will. The House already fully funded government. Now the Senate has decided they want to fully fund Obamacare. So the fight will return to the House, and we will have a very strong contingent of Republicans that will stand for nothing less than fully defunding Obamacare and delaying Obamacare for a year. And if truth be told, Neil, there's a lot of Democrats out there who hope that we prevail because they don't want to take the blame for this bill that they voted for.
Yeah, and if Harry Reid gave him the opportunity just on that portion, on the health care law, either defunding it or even stripping it of some of its controversial provisions, you might get an entirely different outcome. But to that notion that, and you experienced this firsthand, Congresswoman, any advice you could give Senator Cruz? I mean, he got his first inkling with these comic attacks and elsewhere. That you know, there are going to be those moderates in your party who say, go slow, don't look crazy, don't ignite the crazies. We can do this. We can win this if you just moderate the tone. You say what?
Well, I say that sometimes the worst attacks can come from your friends in your own party, and what you have to do is realize who it is that you're speaking for. Ted Cruz did that admirably for over 21 hours this week. He knew who he was speaking for, the American people and the American job provider. He is going to hold a true north course. I trust him to do that, and you have to let it, you develop a very thick skin very quickly. You realize why you're here. You're here to fight for what you believe in, and you don't let Washington get to you. I see in Ted Cruz a man of great strength who won't let that happen, who's going to continue to be a strong voice. I'm for Ted Cruz, and I think he did a wonderful job this week. He inspired people. That's what we need.
But you
now
know,
the Republicans
you might
in the
be
House
right,
have to do likewise.
Congresswoman, but I always think that comics, especially left-leaning ones, I guess that's pretty much all of them, will have an agenda. And the agenda is
sure they
there
do.
are a lot of people who don't know who this Cruz guy is. Let's kill him, laugh him off right out of the box, just as they were trying to do to you when very early on. I remember in the presidential contest, you were polling very well, you were looking very promising, and I really do believe, I'm not blowing you smoke, that there was a concerted effort. Let's delegitimize her quickly because she's gaining some traction. And I often think that whether it's deliberate or not, there is a tendency to take any promising or rising conservative star, much as they do with Ronald Reagan, and make a mockery of him.
It always happens, particularly with conservative women and with minorities. If you have a black candidate or a Hispanic candidate, you're going to see that even more so. And because Ted Cruz's name is a Hispanic name from his father coming from Cuba, I think that you see him as a real threat. So yes, they're scared to death of Ted Cruz. This says more about Ted Cruz in a positive way. He recognizes that. He's very intelligent. And so, again, I think that he will stay the course. But, again, what Republicans need to recognize is stop listening to these pundits. Listen to what a Ted Cruz says. He shows real leadership, and this is someone that's important to get behind.
Congresswoman, great seeing you again. Have a good weekend.
Thank you. Thank you.